isn't it? We're still trying to figure it out. What we do know for sure is that life comes from life. It's precious because if it becomes extinct, it's gone forever. Life is extremely rare in the universe. Ours is the only planet among trillions of galaxies where we know for sure that life exists. Life is also astonishingly complex. Science has finally mapped out the human genome. But where did molecules so amazingly complex come from in the first place? What was the origin of the very first cell? Although Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859, he didn't really deal with the origin of life itself. In 1922, however, the Soviet biochemist Alexander Oparin published a theory of the origin of life with the Russian Botanical Society. He proposed that living organisms might have assembled themselves in a methane environment as molecules became monomers, and monomers became polymers, and polymers became cells. The idea grew in popularity, climaxing with Stanley Miller's experiment in 1952, in which he produced amino acids in the laboratory. Amino acids are monomers that are necessary for the formation of DNA, but they are still a far cry from a complete living cell. The very next year after Stanley Miller's experiment, in 1953, Watson and Crick published the structure of DNA. Life, we learned, is not based merely on special chemicals that replicate themselves, but on information, like a computer program that controls everything that happens within a cell. That revolutionized our understanding of life, and we're still trying to just understand what makes things living. DNA is more advanced than any software program ever written by man, and denser than the most advanced computer chip. Understanding this, Sir Fred Hoyle compared the origin of life to a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a Boeing 747. But if one cell is complex like a jet airliner, then the human body is complex like 30 trillion commercial jet airliners flying together in formation. Both plant life and animal life are based on cells. Cells consist of DNA, RNA, proteins, ribosomes, and many components that work closely together to perform vital functions. Just consider proteins. A minimally complex cell needs at least 250 proteins, each of which has about 150 amino acids. The probability for creating a functional protein out of 150 amino acids is about 1 in 10 to the 164th power. So the probability for the chance formation of 250 proteins is about 1 in 10 to the 41,000th power. That is 1 followed by 41,000 zeros. That number is a trillion, 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 saying a trillion every second for an hour. When every time I say a trillion, it means multiplying the results by a trillion. Every scientist knows, or should know, how really complex life is. We don't often stop to consider that there's not enough time and matter in the entire universe to account for the formation of life by random processes. In fact, there are only 10 to the 17th seconds since the Big Bang, and 10 to the 80th particles in the entire universe. The number of molecular collisions happening in a prebiotic pond during a very limited period of time would have been insignificant compared to the complexity of life. The statistical mathematical probability for the formation of life by random acts is 0. It's scientifically impossible. Let me show you what this looks like on a more observable scale. Here I have a bottle of, say, 2,000 beans. The probability of blindly selecting one particular bean is 1 out of 2,000. That's not good odds. You wouldn't want to bet your life on that. However, if you could pull out 1,000 beans looking for the right one, you would have a 50-50 chance of choosing the right one. You might want to gamble on those odds. But let's demonstrate the possibility for the chance formation of a protein. I'm closing my eyes and I'm going to start randomly selecting beans. Ready? Go. Stop. What? I didn't have a chance to choose even one bean. That's because the statistical probability for the random formation of life is so small that it's functionally 0. It's not possible that it happened. Many scientists are still searching for a means by which matter could have self-organized. Suppose, for instance, that matter is like this magnet and has a natural affinity to snap together. That would help. Unfortunately, there is a greater tendency to push apart and break down than to self-assemble. Theoretical models that include DNA evolving first, protein evolving first, RNA evolving first, as well as computer simulations on natural selection have all been vague and problematic. Since man, with all his intelligence, has not been able to build a cell from scratch, is it realistic to think that a cell could come about without any intelligence to guide it at all? Scientifically speaking, we shouldn't be here, but we are. Some people believe that the intelligence found in DNA is the mark of an originating intelligence. It's as if God placed his signature at the heart of every cell.